We're now being joined first by the Minister of Environment Mohammed Abdullahi, who is in our offsite studio. And of course, on my immediate left in the studio here with me is Mohammad Abubakar, the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, and Suleiman Adamu is an engineer, is the Minister of Water Resources. Gentlemen, welcome to Newsnight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a very big one, $700 million to rejuvenate Nigeria's agricultural sector. I would want to start with you, the Minister of Agriculture, Mohammad Abubakar, and the rest. When you see the quantum of money and the World Bank statement about the dwindling agricultural produces from Nigeria, knowing that northern Nigeria is a food basket of this country. What are your thoughts here?
Well, incidentally, I was the former Minister of Environment, and I knew when we came to the end of NewMap, that is the project preceding this one, and I thought, well, NewMap has been so successful. What can we do to perpetuate? Because we have seen the contribution that NewMap has done, especially on our watershed, especially in the southern part of the country. So the ministry wrote a letter I signed and we sent to the World Bank asking for continuation. And that was how NewMap 2 and now AgriSal became a reality. And the culmination of that was yesterday during the luncheon. And we knew the amount of money that is coming, because this time around, we are addressing all the watershed, not specific as we did in the first one, but all the watershed, and especially in semi-arid landscape. You are talking about water, you are talking about environment, and you are talking about agriculture. So all this come together will require a quantum amount of money, and the planning and the design, the management, the governance structure, and all that to make this work. This will be a game changer because this will tap and touch on the lives of so many people in that semi-arid area. So that is really what this project is all about. It's all encompassing.
I like your optimism. Yes, it's all encompassing. That's why you have the three key ministers, that is going to drive this project. It's a 6-year project, 2022 to 2028. Let's go to our offsite studio and speak to the environment minister. I know you are new on this portfolio, but there isn't any doubt that your directors, the management staff of your ministry would have apprised you greatly with this project, of course, another key project. But let us look at the climatic conditions, which has necessitated this fund, from the World Bank and its other partner and the rest. What kind of regeneration of the environment would your ministry be bringing so that this money would, have great impact on the lives of the farmers in the north?
Okay, thank you, and good evening, viewers. Like my colleague, the Honorable Minister of Agri earlier said, the essence of the program is to, confront the challenges that affect what we call the semi-arid landscape region within the country. Climate change, global warming, has resulted in so much challenge within this region. You notice that we have, in the northern part of the country now, serious cases of desertification, serious cases of poor and receding vegetation. There are serious cases of our wetlands, becoming uncultivatable. In other words, our lands, as we have it up north, cannot be cultivated for maximum agricultural production, and various communities cannot access clean water. So this necessitated the AgriSal project, where the three ministries, line ministries, will come together and in conjunction with the World Bank, to have what we call a remediation process, where these lands can be restored for the purposes of providing farmers the ability to cultivate these lands. Again, for our wetlands, to be restored in such a manner that communities can access clean water. So the project generally is community driven. It's more of restoration to ensure that our vegetation, our habitation, our land management system, and our water management system are restored for the benefit of the people. It is going to be like a 6-year program, and what we are going to do from the angle of the ministry, as the lead ministry, is to ensure that the state steering committees and the PMUs at the state level are effectively coordinated to deliver on the core objectives of the agriculture project. And so, like the minister I mentioned earlier, yesterday was the day where we have the effectiveness meeting to ensure that all conditions are met, and we are quite glad that the government have shown so much enormous political will to drive this project to this level.
Okay, that's gladdening to note, and a good way to regenerate, like you said, remediation of the environment there. Let me come to you, Suleiman Adamu, Minister of Water Resources. Your ministry is key to this project because of the drying Sahelian condition, and of course Lake Chad condition. Nothing is said about the Lake Chad, that's on one hand, and two, I know the federal government, this administration has been building a lot of earth dams and the rest to support agriculture, particularly its grain program and the rest. What more would the ministry be bringing on the table?
Well, this program, it's already been mentioned that it's an all-encompassing program. What is key to us, what is of interest to us, is that the concept of integrated water resources management is now coming into play. This is something we've been talking about for a long time. Nigeria has accepted this concept. And in any case, if you are talking about agriculture, you are talking about environment, you are talking about ecosystem, water plays a very, very important role, because it's the major ingredient that nurtures all this. So we have a big role to play. Our floodplains, our rivers, there's a need to harness some of these floodplains so that the land can be remediated and increase land for agriculture. Nigeria is not a water scarce country per se, because per capita we have 1,800 cubic meters per person. If you divide the total water resource in the country in billions of cubic meters and divide by the population, what has been the problem is that because the minimum threshold is 1,000 cubic meters per person, so we have 1,800 cubic meters. But the problem is that there are some areas with abundant water and some areas with scarce water. And what we are trying to do, this program is helping us, is coming right into our the things that we want to do, our objective of trying to balance the water resources of the country to ensure that areas with scarce water resources may not necessarily be by some kind of interbasin transfer to them, but the little resource that is there, we're able to harness it.
What necessitated the bill, the water bill to the National Assembly, or part of it? Absolutely.
The major issue about that bill is the need to transform the water resources management of this country to be in accordance with the concept of integrated water resources management. This is what happens all over the world. Not only that you ensure that your use of water resources does not degrade the land, but also it empowers the people to be part of the process of any water resources development within the catchment that this is going to happen. So this program it's like it's tailor-made for us. This administration, we've been trying to promote micro-irrigation, drip irrigation, as we call it, trying to, for those areas, even so that the little water we have, we're able to conserve it. The floodplains, also harnessed, and therefore we have a big role to play. And I think the World Bank, part of their worry was to seeing that for the first time 3 ministries are coming to be together on a project, and I think they are very comfortable now with the synergy between the 3 ministries, that this project is going to be a huge success. Yes.
All right. Let me quickly return to the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development here, Mohammad Abubakar. One big problem the Nigerian farmers have is one, the lack of off-takers and the rest, and no value added to their produces, because in most times they either just consumed at the raw stage and the rest, no off-takers to add the needed value, maybe for exports and the rest. Tell us, is this 700 million naira Acreso project going to help reshape and rebuild a new agriculturist or farmers in the country?
Definitely. The more you restore the land, the more you have more acreage for especially the smallholder farmers. We take serious pride and concern with the smallholder farmers because for the most part, people may not really understand, but they feed the nation. They are the first line of defense when it comes to food production. So what this project will do, all of that money will go into restoring the land. It's not going to just be agric, but as we have mentioned, the water, the environment part. You see, the thing with land, the more you restore and plant more vegetation, the more precipitation, more rainfall. And that rainfall, of course, runoff will go to the stream, will go to the river. In terms of agriculture, it's also the vegetation is holding the soil also, so we have fertile land for planting. And at the same time, on the environmental part, addressing climate change. The more vegetation you have, the more absorption of the carbon, which reduces the global warming and the impact of climate change. So small farmers in this whole project are all part of it. As the Minister of Environment mentioned, is community driven. They are part of the planning, they are part of the design. They will have capacity building programs that will tell them how to they themselves manage the land for better production of food, and thereby attaining the food security that we always yearn for.
Fantastic. Okay, let's go now to our offsite studio and be with Mohammad Abdullahi, who is the Minister of Environment. Of course, your ministry is going to be pivotal here in remediation of the land. And I know some few years ago at the Paris Climate Summit, Mr. President had pledged and promised that to regenerate the Sahelian region, which Nigeria's northern Nigeria falls into, no less than 20 million trees are going to be planted. Would this be part of the remediation program to regenerate and rejuvenate the dwindling agricultural mainstay of the country?
Yeah, thank you very much. This program, as proposed, and tends to be holistic in terms of remedial effort of the entire environment. Now, part of what we are going to do is to synergize with the Great Green Wall Project to ensure that, as Mr. President has undertaken and promised to the global community, that we are committed to planting trees to ensure we fight desertification. We are also making effort in terms of strict regulation of our forest so that people don't go into unnecessary logging without requisite approval. And if you go into logging, we must have a plan where you can plant to replace, what we've been able to log out. This is to ensure that our forests are not affected by unnecessary abuse by merchants who are basically more interested in their businesses. Now, don't forget that this program, as envisaged by World Bank and the federal government, has like 4 components. One of the components is to do with, dry land management. Now, part of the dry land management is to ensure that our vegetations are restored, our forests. We have a lot of afforestation program so that our forests are not left barren. It can, like the Minister of Agri have mentioned, the question of ozone layer depletion is real. The question of global warming is real. That is why you find our ecosystem completely getting degraded. Now, the second component, like I mentioned earlier, has to do basically with strengthening institutions and then what we call community climate resilience, to allow the community to develop processes where they can be resilient to climate changes and adopt in such a manner that they can be part of the solutions rather than problems. And the last part of the component has to do with emergency response. If there are issues that has to do that comes with outside the contemplation of the program, the emergency response aspects can look at it and attend to them. So basically what I'm saying is that the federal government is committed to our afforestation program. We are committed to planting as much as possible, so many trees as we can, so that we can arrest the fast challenge of desertification across the United Northern States.
Okay, that's very spot on there. I'll just veer off a little from this $700 million World Bank loan with you. I'm staying with you, Mohammad Abdullahi, Minister of Environment. Within Nigeria too, this World Bank $700 million isn't part of it. But what is your ministry going to do? The erosion in southeast Nigeria is really horrendous. Homes, communities are being washed away and the rest. I mean, just like you probably have in the south, where coastal erosion too is causing a lot of havoc.
Okay. The issue of erosion has been a long-term problem and challenge that bedevils almost every part of the country. Now, we have a Department of Erosion Control that has a very robust program of ensuring that we intervene in areas where there are such challenges. As we speak, there are a number of programs and projects that are ongoing across both the eastern part of the country and the south-south. Again, there is also the Ecological Fund Office, which is under the SDF. They similarly have such kind of programs that borders on intervention to arrest the issues of erosion, particularly in the southeast and the south-south. So the Ministry of Environment is committed to continue with these programs, and in the budget of 2022 rather, we are looking at a very aggressive intervention in terms of erosion control in most of these areas. So I can assure you that the federal government is on course towards addressing these challenges across the country, not just in the southeast and south-south.
Because I know along Niger State, Benue State, and the Taraba-Adamawa corridor, you still have, bits and pieces of that wrecking a lot of havoc during the wet season in Nigeria. But let me come to the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. You were, until recently, the Minister of Environment, and you have a real reservoir of knowledge in this area, together with the issues of rural development. Tell us, you want to add one or two issues that government, would help reduce that?
the Minister of Environment has basically stated the issue of erosion, where the interventions are coming from. But going back in history, the New Map project, the very first one, this one we call it New Map 2, the first one came in as a result of severe gully erosion in the southeast in particular. In all of this country, southeast having a different kind of geological setup where the soil there is easily waterlogged, and then you have mass movement, you have big gully erosions. Now, we looked at it that the ministry's budget cannot fund those kind of gullies. So New Map came into being. And then the Ecological Fund also is part of also that. But New Map has performed so well that it has won several awards from the World Bank itself. If you go and look at their gully erosion intervention project, you will wonder whether the people that really actually carried out are really Nigerians here in Nigeria or some foreign people that came and do this one. So that's one thing. So it was from that success story of how much New Map handled, the World Bank handled the erosion in the southeast in particular, that we now came to Agrisal. Again, he mentioned Ecological Fund. Yes, Ecological Fund was a fund set up particularly for ecological problems. Some of the ecological problems, a lot of them have to do with erosion. We have erosion in all over the country, but there are areas where they are more susceptible, like I said, because of the geologic setup. So erosion is always part of the Ministry of Environment. In fact, at some point they are saying Ministry of Erosion Control because in every year the budget comes with a lot of budgetary allocation
for erosion
and the
control,
disaster
that
because
comes with
erosion costs so much.
Yes.
Agriculture, water, habitat, everything.
Yes. So yes, indeed. Thanks very much, dear Mohammad Mahmoud Abubakar, Minister of Agriculture. Okay, finally to Suleiman Adamu, Minister of Water Resources. Very quickly, what is your ministry, the federal government, doing about Lake Chad? It's a gargantuan project. It's a multinational project that has to be tackled. They've talked about damming, water from DR Congo and the rest to reflate the Lake Chad region. And secondly, are you reintroducing the water bill to the National Assembly again?
Okay, starting with your first question, we are still working on Lake Chad. You remember we had a conference in February 2018 where we had two objectives. First, we wanted an international consensus on the need to save Lake Chad. Secondly, we wanted an international consensus on the interbasin water transfer from the Congo Basin.
Yeah.
We achieved both at that conference. There was an Abuja declaration. Now going forward, the international community, those that have the money bags, have not been very responsive. But this is a long-term program. It requires a huge investment, but we have to start somewhere. So the first step of this is to improve the hydrolicity of River Chari and River Lagon. These are the two rivers that bring water into Lake Chad.
Yeah.
And we have already developed the terms of reference to appoint the consultant. In fact, we even had a bidding process, only that the consultants that emerged, that bidded, were non-responsive. So we have to start the process again. So if we are going to do the interbasin transfer, because you are bringing in more water, you need to improve on this, the size of the channel,
Yeah.
And that is what we are starting with. We are going to start with that study. So we are working on it, but in Nigeria, we are coming in with a solution, at least to improve on the livelihood of the people around the Lake Chad. And that is what we call Howell Interbasin Transfer, which is to transfer water from River Esdrem into Lake Chad to safeguard the at least 12,000 of the 60,000 hectares South Chad irrigation that we're having. So it's work in progress, but like I say, it's not something that you'd expect in 5 years, 10 years, not even in 20 years. But at least this administration has started the process, and we hope that subsequent governments will come and continue. Regarding the water bill, we have done all we need to do. We have subjected it to review. We have taken all the arguments that people have been making. Many, like I always say, misplaced because people have been misinformed. We have done everything to inform the people. We invited environmental lawyers to have a second look at the bill, which they did, and the bill has been kind
fine-tuned
of
now.
fine-tuned.
Okay,
and
carrying all stakeholders along,
exactly.
to eliminate all those misgivings.
All the fears and misgivings have been addressed, especially as relates to state government.
Yes,
and we are now we have represented the bill, and we're hopeful that this time there will be no rancor.
All right, all right. Thanks so very much, gentlemen, for adding so much value to Newsnight, and of course, telling the Nigerian public what such huge monies will be used for. Let me begin from our offsite studio to thank Mohammad Abdullahi, the new Minister of Environment. And with me here on my far left is Mohammad Abubakar, Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, as well as Engineer Suleiman Adamu, the Minister of Water Resources. Thanks very much, gentlemen.